Today we will study a very interesting topic in public finance called the difference between public goods and private goods. Now, public goods are those goods which once produced can be consumed by everyone. No one can be prevented or stopped from consuming these goods. That means the principle of non-exclusion applies in case of these products. The principle of non-exclusion means that no one can be excluded from consuming these goods whether they pay price or not. This means that the consumers will do free riding. Some of the examples of public goods are street lights, national defense, etc. Now the government provides us various facilities like street lights, national defense, roads, bridges, etc. And we pay taxes to the government for all these services. But it should be noted that even those who do not pay any tax at all also use all these services. They cannot be prevented from consuming these services. On the other hand, products like laptops, cell phones, motor cars are examples of private goods. Now, let us systematically study the differences between private goods and public goods. The first difference is that private goods must be purchased for consumption, whereas you don't need to purchase the public goods for consuming them. For example, if I want to consume a laptop or a cell phone, first of all, I will have to purchase them by paying a price, whereas I don't need to pay any price for consuming the public goods like streetlights and national defense. I consume various facilities and services like streetlights and national defense, although I have not purchased them by paying any price. Number two, in case of private goods, the private property right of the consumer gets established, whereas this does not happen in case of public goods. Now, since the consumer has paid a price and purchased the private good, he can claim that it is his private property. Something which will not happen in case of public goods because he hasn't purchased the public good by paying any price. I can claim that the laptop which I am consuming is my private property since I have purchased it. But I cannot claim that the street lights or the national defense which I consume is my private property. Although I consume them, it does not become my private property. The third difference is that in case of private goods, others can be stopped and prevented from consuming the product, something which cannot happen in case of public goods. Now, since you have paid a price for your private good, since it is your private property, you can stop others from consuming or using the product since it is a private good. On the other hand, you cannot stop anyone from consuming the public good since you have not purchased it, you have not paid any price. You will not be able to stop or prevent anyone from consuming a public good, just as nobody else will be able to stop you from doing that. Number four, in case of private goods, direct payment is made for the product. This means that a specific price is paid for a specific product. For example, I have specifically paid rupees 50,000 for my laptop. This does not happen in case of public goods. In case of public goods, we just pay a lump sum tax to the government. We don't pay a specific price for street light or national defense. The fifth difference is that in case of private goods, there is rivalry in consumption. This means that when new people start consuming the product, the consumption of the existing consumers will decrease. For example, I use my laptop for 8 hours a day. Now suppose if someone borrows my laptop for 3 hours, my consumption will decrease from 8 hours to 5 hours. On the other hand, in case of public goods, there is no rivalry in consumption. This means that if new people start consuming the product, the consumption of the existing consumers will not decrease. Suppose 1 lakh additional people migrate to India from other countries, they too will get the benefit and protection from Indian Army, but that does not reduce the protection which is provided to the existing population. So there is no rivalry in consumption of public goods. Number 6. In case of private goods, the exclusion of the non-payers is possible. It is possible for the seller to deny the product to those who are not ready to pay the price. This means that the non-payers can be excluded from consumption. If I am not ready to pay for a laptop in my hand in the showroom, the seller will simply snatch it away from me. On the other hand, in case of public goods, the exclusion of the non-payers is not possible. It is not possible to deny the product to those who are not willing to pay the price. Now, even if I don't pay a price for the street light or national defense, no one can stop me from using these facilities. Number 7. Free riding is not possible in case of private goods, whereas free riding is possible in case of public goods. Now, since the price must be paid for the consumption of private goods, the free riding in case of private goods will not be possible, whereas the public goods can be consumed even without paying the price, and therefore the free riding is a characteristic of public goods. Number 8. In case of private goods, the producer has to incur additional cost for providing the product to the additional people. For example, if a builder wants to provide housing facility to additional 100 people, first of all, he will have to construct additional 100 houses and he will have to incur the cost of material, labor, etc. On the other hand, no additional cost is required for providing public goods to the additional people. For example, if 100 people come to live in a particular area of the city, no additional cost has to be incurred to provide them the streetlight facility. The same existing streetlights can provide services to the additional people. Number 9, the consumption of private goods can be rejected, whereas this cannot happen in case of public goods. If someone feels that he does not need a laptop, he can reject it. But if someone feels that he does not require the services of national defense, it is not possible to reject. If someone is living in the country, by default, he will be consuming the services of national defense and other public goods. Number 10. In case of private goods, there is unequal availability because of unequal distribution of income. Now, unequal distribution of income means that some people are very rich, whereas others are very poor. And because of this income inequality, we may find that someone has got 3 laptops, whereas others may not have any laptop at all. On the other hand, in case of public goods, there is equal availability despite unequal distribution of income. Whether it is a rich businessman like Mukesh Ambani or a poor beggar on the street, the protection they get from national defense will always be the same. Similarly, if someone drives a Mercedes or he drives a bicycle on the road, the light which he gets from the street light will always be the same. So despite unequal distribution of income, the availability of public goods is always the same. Number 11. The private sector will always allocate resources in the production of private goods, but it will never allocate resources in the production of public goods. Private sector allocates resources in the production of only those products where there is a possibility of earning profits. And this possibility of earning profits is only there in private goods because the price can be charged for them. On the other hand, as the price cannot be charged and so the profits cannot be earned in case of public goods, the private sector will never allocate resources for producing the public goods. Number 12. Private consumption of private goods is possible. This means that you can consume the private good personally, privately, and alone, something which is not possible in case of public goods. When you are consuming the public goods, simultaneously hundreds and thousands, sometimes lakhs and crores are consuming the product simultaneously. So, private good consumption can be private, whereas the consumption of public good is always collective. So, this was the difference between public goods and private goods. Thank you. Thank you very much.